The hall went silent so fast you could hear the air conditioner humming. People had been clapping a moment before. Phones were up, recording. A banner hung across the front of the stage in bright letters. Kadura Community Education Fund Thanksgiving Night. On the stage stood Chief Dare Baligan, the billionaire everyone in Kadura town talked about. His suit looked like it was sewn on his body. His smile was calm, trained, and confident. Beside him stood a skinny boy in a clean school uniform, holding a microphone with two hands like it might run away. The boy's name was Sei. Sei's eyes were bright with tears, but his voice did not shake. "Sir," he said, facing Chief Dare, "thank you for paying my school fees. Thank you for the books. Thank you for the laptop. Thank you for everything." Chief Dare nodded, pleased. This was the part of the night people loved. A poor child. A rich helper. A happy ending. Sei swallowed hard. He looked down at the microphone, then up again. His face changed, as if he had stepped into a place he could not run from. But the truth came out, Sei continued, louder now, and the hall grew even quieter. "And I can't keep it inside." Chief Dare's smile froze, just a little. Sei lifted his chin. "You are my father." A sharp gasp burst from the crowd. It spread like fire from row to row. One woman dropped her phone. It hit the floor with a loud crack. A man near the front whispered, "Oh," like he had been punched. Even the MC, who always had jokes, stopped breathing. Chief Dare did not move at first. He only stared at the boy, like he was trying to understand a language he had never heard before. Then his hand reached for the edge of the podium, gripping it tightly. "What did you say?" Chief Dare asked. His voice was low, careful, almost polite. But something in it was sharp. Sei's eyes filled again. "I said you are my father," he repeated. "My mother told me. She hid it for years. But she told me the truth." Chief Dare's chest rose and fell once. His face stayed smooth, but his eyes were no longer smiling. They were searching, like a torch in the dark. The MC stepped forward quickly, forcing a laugh that sounded broken. Oh, young man, you mean father like sponsor father, right? Like our big daddy that helps everyone." Sei shook his head slowly. "No, sir." The hall was now a pot on fire, ready to boil over. Then, from the second row, a woman stood up. She wore a simple blue gown, the kind working women wore to church and meetings. Her hair was packed neatly under a scarf. She was not dressed like a rich person, but she carried herself like someone who had carried heavy things for too long. Her name was Amina, Sei's mother. She stepped into the aisle with slow legs, as if every eye was pushing against her. When she reached the front, she did not look at the crowd. She looked only at Chief Dare. "Dare," she said, using his first name like she had the right to. "It's true." Chief Dare's lips parted slightly. The name hit him harder than the boy's words. "Amina," he whispered, like he had opened a door and found a room from his past still waiting. The crowd began to murmur. People in Kadra love stories, especially the kind with secrets. In a modern town, gossip still moved faster than motorcycles. Chief Dare stepped away from the podium. His security men shifted, ready, unsure who the danger was. He looked at Sei again. The boy stood firm, but his hands were shaking now. "What is this?" Chief Dare asked. "Who put you up to this?" Sei's voice cracked. "Nobody put me up to anything. I'm not lying. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending I don't know." Amina reached out as if to touch Sei's shoulder, but she stopped herself. Her eyes were wet too. "We didn't plan this," she said to Chief Dare. "But you forced it without knowing." Chief Dare's eyes narrowed. "Forced it?" Amina nodded once. "When you started paying his fees. When you chose him from all the children. When you called him a bright future. You woke up a truth that I buried. Chief Dare's face tightened. In that moment, the fancy hall, the cameras, the music, the praise, all of it faded. The night stopped being a public show and became something private and dangerous, even without violence. Dangerous because of shame. Dangerous because of truth. Say looked at Chief Dare and spoke like a boy who had rehearsed the words 100 times in his heart. My mom said you didn't know about me, he said. She said you left before she could tell you. She said you were young, and your family was proud. She said she was scared. Chief Dare looked at Amina now, really looked at her. His voice was still controlled, but it shook at the edges. Why now? He asked. Why bring this to a hall full of people? Amina's eyes dropped. Because my son refused to keep quiet anymore, she said. And because I am tired. I have been tired for years. A heavy silence sat on them. Then the MC tried again, panicking. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's remain calm. This is a beautiful night of giving. Let us not. But the crowd was already alive with whispers. That boy looks like him. Have you seen the eyes? Oh. So Chief has a son outside. What of his wife? God forbid. This is big. Chief Dare's wife was not in the hall. Everyone knew that. She was said to be in Abuja for a charity event, but people would now wonder if she had run away from something else. Chief Dare turned to his security chief and spoke through tight teeth. Clear this area. The security chief hesitated. Sir, the cameras. Now, Chief Dare snapped. Two security men stepped toward Sei and Amina, not rough but firm, like they were moving fragile glass. Sei pulled back. Don't touch my mother. Chief Dare lifted a hand. The men paused. His gaze stayed on Sei. For a moment, something softer moved across his face. Something like fear. Something like recognition. Then it vanished, replaced by cold control. We will talk privately, Chief Dare said. Sei held the microphone closer, refusing to be moved like a secret. I don't want private, he said. I want truth. Chief Dare's voice dropped, dangerously quiet. Truth is not always kind, boy. Sei's eyes flashed. Then why did you sponsor me? He asked. Why did you choose me? Out of all the children in Kadra, why me? Chief Dare's mouth opened slightly, then closed. He did not answer. Amina looked at Chief Dare with a painful calm. Because blood calls blood, she whispered. Even when the head refuses, the heart remembers. Chief Dare flinched like she had slapped him with words. The hall began to swell with sound again, people standing, phones raised higher, hunger for the next line. Then Sei did something no one expected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. It was old, soft at the edges like it had been opened and closed many times. He held it up. My mother kept this, he said, voice shaking now but still strong. She said it was proof. He unfolded it carefully. It was a picture. A younger Amina, smiling shyly, standing beside a young man who looked like Chief Dare before money and age hardened him. They were close, too close to be strangers. The crowd gasped again, louder this time. Chief Dare's face went pale for the first time. Amina's lips trembled. Sei, she whispered, as if she had begged him not to do this. But Sei was already beyond begging. He pointed at the picture, then at Chief Dare. This is you, he said. Tell them it's not. Tell them I'm lying. Chief Dare stared at the photo like it was a ghost. Then, slowly, he stepped forward and reached for it with a hand that did not look powerful anymore. It looked uncertain, almost human. His fingers touched the edge of the paper. And at that exact moment, the doors at the back of the hall swung open. A tall woman entered, surrounded by 2 assistants. She wore a bright, elegant dress. Her jewelry shone under the lights. Her face was beautiful and hard at the same time, like a statue. Everyone knew her. Mrs. Bolano Baligan, Chief Dare's wife. She stopped in the doorway, eyes scanning the room, taking in the crowd, the silence, the tension. Then her gaze landed on the stage. On the boy in the uniform. On Amina. On the picture in Chief Dare's hand. Her eyes narrowed, and her voice cut through the hall like a knife through cloth. "What," she said slowly, "is going on here?" Chief Dare turned toward her, still holding the photo. Say held the microphone like a weapon made of truth. And Amina stood frozen, as if the past had finally caught her and would not let go. The cameras kept recording. The hall held its breath. Because everyone knew that the next words would change everything. Mrs. Bolano Baligan did not shout. She did not rush forward. She simply stood there, tall and still, as if the whole hall had been built around her question. "What," she repeated, slower this time, "is going on here?" Chief Dare turned fully to face his wife. For a moment, he looked like a man who had forgotten how to speak. The picture trembled slightly in his hand. The MC cleared his throat. "Madam, welcome. We were just..." "Quiet," Mrs. Bolano said, without raising her voice. The MC went quiet. Her eyes moved back to Say. They studied him carefully, not with anger at first, but with sharp attention. Then they shifted to Amina, lingering there longer, as if searching for something familiar and painful. Finally, she looked at her husband. "There," she said. "Explain." "Now." Chief Dare swallowed. The crowd leaned forward as one body. "This is not the place," he said carefully. "We will discuss this at home." Mrs. Bolano let out a short laugh, dry and bitter. "You lost the right to choose the place when you let this happen in public." Say tightened his grip on the microphone. His heart was pounding, but he did not look away. "He is my father," he said again. "I didn't plan to say it here, but I won't take it back." Mrs. Bolano's eyes flicked to him. "Who told you that?" "My mother," Say replied. Mrs. Bolano nodded slowly. "And who is your mother?" Amina stepped forward before Say could answer. Her legs felt weak, but she stood straight. "My name is Amina Yusuf," she said. "I am his mother." Mrs. Bolano looked at her fully now. For a second, something like memory passed over her face. "Amina," she repeated. "From Zoria." Amina's breath caught. "Yes." The hall buzzed. Some people whispered, others simply watched, afraid to blink. "So," Mrs. Bolano said quietly, "it is you." Chief Dare's head snapped up. "Bolano." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't speak yet." She walked closer to the stage, her heels clicking softly against the floor. Each step felt heavy, as if it carried years of questions. "You sponsored this boy's education," she said to her husband. "You chose him yourself. You said his file stood out." Chief Dare nodded slowly. "He is brilliant." "Yes," she said. "But many children are brilliant." "Why him?" Chief Dare looked at Say again. The boy's face, his eyes, his mouth. Things he had seen before but never allowed himself to connect. "I don't know," he said, and for the first time, he sounded unsure. Something about him felt familiar. Amina closed her eyes briefly. "Blood remembers," she whispered again. Mrs. Bolano inhaled deeply. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but there was a crack beneath it. "You could have told me," she said to Chief Dare. "At least when you started sponsoring him. Even if you were not sure." Chief Dare lowered his head. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid of what?" she asked. "Of losing your image. your respect? Or afraid of the truth? He did not answer. The security chief leaned toward Mrs. Bolano. Madam, the press is recording everything. She waved him away. Let them. Then she turned back to say. Her eyes softened just a little. Boy, she said, do you know what you are saying can destroy? Say nodded. Yes, Ma. Do you know it can change lives forever? Yes, Ma. Even yours. Say's voice trembled. I already changed when I learned the truth. The hall went quiet again. Mrs. Bolano looked at Amina. Why didn't you come to him before? She asked. Why raise a child alone when you knew who his father was? Amina's shoulders slumped slightly. I was young, she said. I loved him. But his family did not love me. I was nobody. I was scared that if I spoke, I would lose everything. So I chose silence. And now? Mrs. Bolano asked. Amina looked at Say. Now my son is old enough to ask questions. And I cannot lie to him anymore. Chief Dare took a step toward them. Amina, you should have told me, he said softly. I would have helped. Amina looked at him with tired eyes. You left, she replied. You changed your number. You traveled. You became someone I could not reach. The words hit him harder than shouting would have. Mrs. Bolano closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Enough, she said. This is not a stage drama. She turned to the crowd. This event is over. Please leave. There was a protest, murmurs of disappointment, but the security men moved quickly now, guiding people toward the exits. Cameras were lowered, but phones still glowed. As the hall emptied, the silence that remained felt heavier than the noise before. Only a few people stayed behind. Chief Dare. Mrs. Bolano. Amina. Say. And the security team at a distance. Say finally lowered the microphone. His hands were numb. Mrs. Bolano sat down in the front row, suddenly looking tired. Sit, she said to Say and Amina. They sat. Chief Dare remained standing, pacing slowly. I will do a DNA test, he said at last. That is the only way. Say nodded. I'm ready. Amina nodded too. I expected that. Mrs. Bolano watched them both. And until then. Chief Dare stopped pacing. Until then, he stays under my care, he said. He is already my responsibility. Mrs. Bolano's eyes flashed. Under whose roof? Our family house, he replied carefully. Say's eyes widened. I can stay there, he asked. Mrs. Bolano looked at him for a long moment. Her heart was a storm, but she did not let it show. We will see, she said. Nothing moves fast anymore. She stood up and faced Amina. If this is true, she said, then you changed my life without asking. Amina bowed her head. I am sorry, she said. I never wanted to hurt you. Mrs. Bolano did not respond. She turned to leave, then stopped. There is something you should know, she said, her back still facing them. Chief Dare looked up. What is it? She turned slowly. Her eyes were wet now, but her voice was firm. I cannot have children. The words fell into the room like stones into deep water. Chief Dare froze. Say's mouth opened slightly. Amina gasped softly. I found out years ago, Mrs. Bolano continued. After the doctors. After the prayers. After everything. She looked at Say, really looked at him, and something unreadable crossed her face. So, she said, this boy may not just change your past, dear. She paused. He may change my future. She walked out of the hall without another word. Chief Dare sank into a chair, his face buried in his hands. Say sat still, his heart racing. For the first time since speaking the truth, fear crept in. Amina reached for his hand and held it tightly. Outside, the sound of sirens and voices filled the night. News was already spreading across Kadra and beyond. And deep inside the Baligan family house, a door that had been locked for years had begun to open, slowly, painfully, toward a truth none of them were ready to face yet. The Baligan family house sat on a quiet hill at the edge of Kadra town. It was big, modern, and guarded, but that night it felt smaller than ever. Say stood at the gate, holding a small bag with his clothes inside. His school uniform was neatly folded. His books were packed carefully. Everything he owned fit into that one bag. Amina stood beside him, her hands locked together. She had barely slept since the night at the hall. Her eyes were swollen, but her back was straight. Chief Dare watched them from the steps of the house. He looked older now, as if the truth had added years to his face. Mrs. Bolano stood a little behind him, her arms crossed, her expression calm but distant. No one spoke for a while. Then Mrs. Bolano broke the silence. "You can come inside," she said to Say. Say hesitated. He looked at his mother. Amina forced a small smile. "Go," she said softly. "Be brave." Say walked forward slowly. Every step felt heavy. When he reached the steps, he stopped and turned back. "Mom," he said, his voice shaking, "will you be okay?" Amina nodded. "I have always been okay," she said. "I will continue to be." She hugged him tightly. The hug lasted longer than usual, like both of them were trying to remember the feeling forever. When they pulled apart, Chief Dare spoke. "Amina," he said, "thank you for trusting us enough to let him come." Amina looked at him, searching his face. "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "Just do right by him." She turned and walked away without looking back. Say watched her until she disappeared beyond the gate. That was the first low moment. Quiet. Heavy. Painful. Inside the house, everything felt new and strange. The floors were shiny. The walls held pictures of Chief Dare and Mrs. Bolano at events, smiling for cameras. Say felt like a visitor in a place he might belong to. A house staff showed him to a room. It was large, with a soft bed, a desk, and a window that looked out over the town. "This is your room," the woman said kindly. Say nodded. "Thank you." When she left, he sat on the bed and stared at his hands. "Am I really his son?" he whispered to himself. The next days passed slowly. The DNA test was done quietly, without cameras or announcements. Everyone waited. Chief Dare tried to talk to Say often. Sometimes he asked about school. Sometimes about football. Sometimes he just sat there, watching him, as if trying to learn his face. Mrs. Bolano watched from a distance. She was polite. Calm. But guarded. One evening, she called Say to sit with her in the living room. "You are smart," she said. "Your teachers speak well of you." "Thank you, Ma," Say replied. She nodded. "Do you know why I agreed to let you stay here before the test results?" Say shook his head. "Because," she said slowly, "even if the truth hurts, it deserves space." Say thought about that. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," he said quietly. "I know," she replied. "But truth does not ask permission." That night, Chief Dare did not sleep. He walked around the house, memories chasing him. Amina's smile from years ago. The choices he made. The calls he never returned. In the morning, the call finally came. The doctor spoke calmly, clearly. "The results confirm it," he said. "Say Yusuf is your biological son." Chief Dare closed his eyes. For a moment, he felt like the ground had shifted under him. When he opened them, he said only one word. "Thank you." He gathered everyone in the living room. Say sat on the edge of the couch. Mrs. Bolano sat upright, her hands folded. The air felt thick. It's true, Chief Dare said. Say is my son. Say's heart jumped. Even though he believed it, hearing it out loud felt different. Mrs. Bolano closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. So it is settled, she said. The truth has a name now. Chief Dare turned to Say. His voice softened. I failed you once, he said. Without knowing. I won't fail you again. Tears filled Say's eyes. I don't want your money, he said. I just wanted to know who I am. Chief Dare nodded. And you will, he replied. With dignity. Then he turned to Mrs. Bolano. I know this is not what you planned, he said. But I ask for your patience. Mrs. Bolano stood up slowly. The room went quiet. For years, she said, I prayed for a child. I cried. I blamed myself. I healed. She walked towards Say and stopped in front of him. And now, she continued, a child walks into my life through pain and truth. She looked down at him. Her eyes were gentle now. This house has room, she said. But respect must live here too. Say stood up and bowed his head slightly. Yes, Ma. That was the high moment. Not joy. Not celebration. But acceptance. Weeks passed. News spread, but slowly. Carefully. Say returned to school, this time as Chief Dare's acknowledged son. Some students whispered. Some stared. Some admired him. But Say stayed focused. One afternoon, he sat with Chief Dare on the balcony. Do you regret sponsoring me? Say asked. Chief Dare shook his head. No, he said. It saved me. Say looked up. Saved you from what? From living a lie I didn't know I was living, Chief Dare replied. That evening, Mrs. Bolano visited Amina. The meeting was quiet. No shouting. No insults. Just two women sitting across from each other. I don't hate you, Mrs. Bolano said. But I need time. Amina nodded. That is fair. When she returned home, Mrs. Bolano felt lighter than she expected. Back at the Baligan house, Say stood in his room, looking at his reflection in the mirror. He was still the same boy. But his story had changed. As night fell over Kadra town, Say held his books close and whispered to himself, steady and hopeful. I will make this truth mean something. And somewhere deep in the house, three hearts, once divided by silence, began the slow work of learning how to live with honesty.